What's happening, guys? Mike from Metacomics coming at you with a review for Jurassic World. I'm going to do this review a little bit differently. I'm going to actually do a video review. You get to see this smiling mug. And I'm also going to try to go light on the spoilers and not ruin the movie for you. I know when I do comic reviews, I typically go into the entire story and kind of, it's very filled with spoilers. I'm going to try to get away from that eventually and try to, maybe give some reviews that don't have so much of that in it. But at the same time, anytime you get into a review, there are going to be some spoilers. Otherwise, I wouldn't have anything to talk about. So I got a chance to see Jurassic World in 3D IMAX last night, which is absolutely the best way to watch a big summer blockbuster like this. I gotta tell you, I'm actually very surprised at how this film turned out. I really was not expecting this to be something that was going to be really awesome or have a really good story to it. I kind of thought it was going to be typical summer blockbuster, lots of explosions, some blood, some gore, that kind of thing. I don't go to a summer blockbuster for the Oscar caliber acting. I go for big explosions, big special effects, lots of heroes and lots of good guy versus bad guys and just really big productions. I don't really go necessarily because I'm expecting to see a really good social commentary on society or something, but surprisingly, that's kind of what this movie really was. So before we get into all that, I just want to say that I'm going to do this review in 3 parts. The first part is going to talk about the story and the acting. The second part is going to talk about visual effects and the music, and the last part of this is going to talk about some of the themes that the movie put forward, which I thought were excellent. So let's kick things off with the story. So the screenplay for this was written by Rick Jaffa, Amanda Silver, Colin Trevorrow, and Derek Connolly, and the film was directed by Colin Trevorrow. This movie is basically a sequel to the first Jurassic Park, so they've kind of scrapped Lost World and JP3 out of continuity. Those movies never happened. So this is a direct sequel to the first movie. So the basic plot line of this is that after the incident that happened on the first Jurassic Park, John Hammond went ahead and decided to still go ahead and build the park and rebranded it as Jurassic World. It's a hugely popular theme park with thousands of visitors every day coming to see all the attractions and to ride the rides, but it seems that some of the attendance is starting to cool off a little bit. The public is losing interest in dinosaurs. To sort of boost public interest in the park again, they decide to create a brand new species of dinosaur using DNA splicing. Horrible idea, right? I mean, it just sounds like a really bad idea. Anytime man tries to play God, so to speak, it always ends up just terrible. People die, there's carnage, screaming, blood, guts, you get the picture. Well, as you know from the trailers, things pretty much go downhill from there, and we later discover that there's an even more sinister reason, besides just trying to make a buck, for this animal being created. And that subplot is really, really interesting. Claire, who is played by Bryce Dallas Howard, she's pretty much like the overseer of the park, and so her nephews come to visit her, and they get to take a tour of the park and everything. Kind of like Lex and Tim from the original Jurassic Park. You have to have your kid characters in there, kind of give their perspective on everything that's happening, and to just up the danger factor. If you want to know the rest of the film, you're just going to have to go see it. That's as far as I'm going to go with it. So, like I said, going into this movie, I wasn't expecting much, and I was actually kind of blown away by the layers and depth and symbolism that was in this movie, that was part of this story. It was actually a really good social commentary on our desire and need for control, our insatiable appetite to be entertained, and how progress isn't always a good thing. But we'll get more into that later. Okay, so the story had a main plot, which I just talked about, and then it also had a subplot, which I'm not going to talk about. You're going to have to go watch the movie to find that out, which added a lot of depth and was very entertaining and kind of gave a new twist to the whole Jurassic Park thing. And I think it's going to be interesting to see future installments, which I'm sure they'll make after the success of this one, to see them explore this other plot line a little further, and it really adds a great interesting element, I think, to the overall franchise. For the most part, the acting was pretty decent, although Bryce Dallas Howard had some really awkward scenes where her acting was a little cheesy. Some of the crying seemed kind of fake and just really bad. But other than that, it was really, really good. And Chris Pratt's character, even though he did have kind of that Star-Lord swagger and kind of cracked a few jokes, wasn't nearly as one-dimensional as a lot of the trailers seemed to make him to be. It seemed from the trailers like we were just going to get another Star-Lord character. It's not really like that. In fact, his portrayal in this made me really think of seeing him as Indiana Jones. I think he would make a great Indiana Jones. I think Bradley Cooper would too. This totally sold me on Chris Pratt being able to take up that role. The story wasn't perfect. It was just about as good as the original. I say just about because the first one has a special place in my heart. I grew up watching it. It was a big part of my childhood. I have a lot of fond memories of it. So for me, nothing's ever going to top the original. I think it's a bit unfair to actually compare the two movies, seeing as how, they're very, very different in how they're done. It's important to remember that this is Jurassic Park for a new generation, and your kids are going to love this as much as we love the original. So it's time to kind of step back, not be such big purists, and allow a new generation to interpret this story and to enjoy it for what it is, and let them have their own version of this classic story, and not be so anal about keeping everything the same or trying to make it like the original. Just let these new storytellers tell this the way they want to, and to create something for a new generation so that they can build their own memories with it, instead of just us trying to rehash our childhood. That's just my thought on it, though. Let's talk about the visuals and the music for this movie. When it comes to visual effects, it's clear the studio spared no expense. Did you see what I did there? Yeah, I know. It's horrible. It's cheesy. I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. Anyway, the visuals in this movie were amazing. And despite there being no animatronic dinosaurs at all in the movie, the CG did a great job of convincing me that these suckers were real. I mean, it looked very, very good. And I was really impressed by how they made Indominus Rex, because he was I think it was a he, maybe it was a she, I don't remember, looked absolutely terrifying, every bit as intimidating as the original T-Rex from the first Jurassic Park movie years ago. When you first saw that scene as a kid, it was just really scary and intimidating. The Indominus Rex does that in this movie for sure. There were a few spots where the CG could have been a lot better, and that's primarily with the flying dinosaurs. The flying dinosaurs didn't really look all that sharp when they were interacting with people. It kind of looked really fake. But aside from that, excellent job on that. The cinematography was absolutely outstanding for this movie. The park itself looked so sleek and modern, and it just looked beautiful. And the setting with the jungle in Costa Rica was beautiful. I mean, the foliage was green and crisp and very colorful. It was great. It was just really, really good cinematography. I enjoyed it a lot. Fans of the iconic theme from the first movie, da 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 da. Sorry. Fans of the original iconic theme will be pleased to hear that it is throughout the entire movie, nestled into little bits and pieces of new score work that really sets this movie apart, while also paying homage to the original. And there's even a few parts where we have this sad little single note piano line playing that theme, and it just fits perfectly into the tribute that this movie actually pays to the first movie. It's awesome. The score was great and fantastic. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Thought it fit with the movie very well. Alright, now let's dig into the themes of this movie a little bit. There were three really big themes that I felt like were predominant in the movie. The first one, the really big overarching theme, was control. This topic comes up several times in the movie. First, with the new owner of the park who took John Hammond's place. He tells Bryce Dallas Howard's character, Claire, to stop being such a control freak, to let go, to realize that no matter how hard we try, there are things that are just outside our control, and the more we accept that, the happier life we can have. It comes up again later with Owen, who is Chris Pratt's character, when he talks to Claire about the fact that he doesn't control the raptors, he's in a relationship with them. So, we as human beings, we love to think that we're in control of our own destiny. We love being able to control the situations we find ourselves in. But reality is, we're actually in control of very little outside of how we choose to respond to the circumstances life kind of throws our direction. The things we think we do control are usually just illusions or self-deceptions to make us feel better about the fact that we're not really in control. The reality is, much of life is outside of our control, and just like the guy said, if we would learn to accept that, we would end up enjoying the ride a little bit more. Another theme in the film is the insatiable appetite we all have for bigger and better entertainment. Those things that once fascinated us and left us in awe no longer do that. We're bored by them. And that's kind of the way the audience in the theme park is toward the dinosaurs and attractions. They've become used to them. They look at them as tame things, like they're no longer exciting. And it's kind of a tragic thing that reflects how we have lost sight of the awe in the everyday things around us. And, it seems like we constantly need bigger and better technology to help us stay entertained and to not be bored. Heaven forbid we're bored for more than 5 seconds, How often do you go somewhere and someone's standing in line for like 2 minutes and they already have their smartphone out on Facebook or something? And I'm guilty of it too. I do the same thing. What does that say about us and our attention span and stuff in this modern era? I think it's kind of sad. Finally, there's the idea about progress not always being a good thing. In the movie, Chris Pratt's character, Owen, is having a conversation with Claire, and they start discussing the genetic experimentation that led to the creation of Indominus Rex, and how that's scientific progress and it can't be stopped. And Chris Pratt, kind of comes back saying, yeah, but maybe sometimes progress should lose. The original film deals with the same kind of theme. Just because we can do something, just because we have the power and ability to change and alter what already exists, doesn't mean that we should do it, or that it's ultimately what's good for us as a society. This is a really hard pill to swallow in our day and age when we're so enamored with the idea of change and moving forward. It seems we rarely weigh out the impact these changes could have on our society at large, for better or worse. Overall, I really liked the movie. It was really entertaining and enjoyable. It's a great summer blockbuster, but still manages to have some depth to it and can inspire some really great conversations for those who are willing to engage it. Overall, I would give this movie an 8 out of 10. Alright guys, that's all I got for this one. I'll see you guys next time.